This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your Thursday morning CAF chat. I am your host, Laura, and welcome to the OG Star Wars channel. If you are coming here for the first time listening in, and this channel is all about George Lucas era of Star Wars, a bit of quote unquote Star Wars news, like, this would be the faux lore, right? Because, what existed as true Star Wars is no longer being produced by George Lucas and by anyone that is deemed fit to run it, right? And also Cringe Factor, Book of the Week, and Lucas Fact. How are you guys doing? It looks like we're having people hop on right now. So thank you guys for joining. If you are catching the replay, feel free to let me know in the comments below that you are here, saying hello, and maybe replying to any topic that we are talking here as well. And welcome. What is in your mug? I am enjoying just a regular coffee with a little bit of cream and sugar and ready to go. Yeah, so we are still continuing on the new Jedi Order, and we are in the Star by Star timeline. And those who don't know, we're not reviewing the book, but we're talking about events happening within this timeline here. And I've got to say, and you guys probably hear me repeat this all the time, that Star by Star is probably the best book in the series, if not the best. Vector Prime, I think for myself, goes hand in hand or toe to toe with that spot, because that's that book itself. Even though it is the book that sets up the series and stuff, so much going on, and there's such great writing experiences. It really gets you hooked into the series, and you got to keep going on top of that. So I'm going to see who's in the chat, and let's get this started, right? So let's see here. We have Coaster Holics. Hey, what's up, Coaster Holics? Let's get it. Let's go. That's the famous shill saying. Let's go. All right. And then Diddly Squat here. Hello, OG. Have you seen the interview of Jason Court about? Yes, I did. In fact, I was thinking about playing it here. It was shared to me when it first came out, and I shared it on Twitter. So I never had a chance to really talk about it here on the channel. Very great interview, although his point of view of bringing Kyle Katarn into Disney's Star Wars is not something that I favor. So that bit right there, I don't care for as much, but hey, you know me, I'd rather keep, EU original characters away from the Disney lore. They should be doing something for themselves and their continuity, right? And we have United Spacers Alliance here. Howdy, OGs. Hey, what's up? How are you doing? Long time no see in chat. Thank you for coming in, and a mod and a channel member as well. And you guys, we had our first great meetup for the book club listen party for Young Jedi Knights. Book 1 Heirs to the of the Force, and that was amazing. So each book is about maybe 4 hours long, a little over. So I'm breaking those up into 2 segments. So 2 hour and 15 minutes segments, I guess you could say, something like that. And it's a way of giving back and enjoying these books together, keeping Star Wars alive, and it gives people a chance to get into books that they haven't got into yet, and just seeing the setup of all the young Jedis that are probably the second, I would say, generation or second class of trainees that Luke has gone through. We already know the first class, I guess you could say, if you read the Jedi Academy series. And we still see Luke growing and understanding himself as a master, or basically a Jedi Knight, a teacher. So very good series right there. So I suggest becoming a channel member. You can also get 10% off any of my art. It could be Star Wars or not. And then I think that I could set that up for Redbubble, where I have some of my merch there. So let me get back to you guys on that. So become a channel member. Great start every Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will meet for the book club. I send out a link. It's under StreamYard's webinar, which is very private. It's not aired live or anything like that. Because sometimes I like to keep it intimate with my channel members, and also consider, like, sometimes books do have the score from the movies in there, and that could be a problem if for YouTube standards and gives me a copyright. So keeping it intimate like that in a webinar, meet up together, listening and talking in the chat, discussing the book, continuity that it ties to, the historical timeline, basically, and just chatting in general while we listen. That's just a wonderful experience that I like to share with every single one of you guys. So become a channel member. All right. And now that I ranted on about that, let's move on to say hello to people. Andrew is here. Tap the like. Yes, tap the like. And Silver here. He was with us for that. It was amazing. Brand new to the series, Young Jedi Knights. So I can't wait for part 2 with you guys to see. It's just getting good in that book. So I kind of left it on a cliffhanger on purpose, and I'm not sorry. So yes. And you have the emojis to use, the customized emojis. Become a channel member. I will tell you what's in my mug at 4 tomorrow. All right. All right. And you scared me with that. If you're hearing the replay, I looked twice to make sure it was live. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm sorry. I am sorry. And we have Lucas Gerson here. Hello there. Dark greetings, everyone, and dark greetings to you. I hopefully you're having a good Thursday. All right. Conrado. I almost said Coronado. I stopped myself. Conrado. I hate how Kyle Katarn got erasured by Lucasfilm. You know, they just toss it, but in a way, it kind of saves us from seeing more bastardization of these characters, right? So, I mean, that part I really don't mind. They say he's part of the Disney Star Wars continuity because he ended up being in some card games, and published during the time, like shortly after the acquisition of Star Wars or Lucasfilm. So, but thank God so far he's not added into their continuity, and they just went ahead and just took him and made crazy versions of him. You could kind of see both Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor, I guess that's its name, right? They're like together, they're a mix between Kyle Katarn and Jan Ors, in a sense, because you could see the attributes in both of them from Jan Ors and Kyle Katarn, you know. And I've talked about this plenty of times. You guys know this, like especially when Rogue One came out, and then Andor. I've talked about how they usurped these characteristics from these characters to put into their version. And usually when you do secondhand versions, they're not usually most of the time, they're not good. They're just a cheap knockoff and trying to, you know, gain that lightning in the bottle again. And it doesn't work that way. It really does not work that way. All right, let's see here. And let's go down. I finally got Star by Star, great book. Awesome. And you can also listen to it if you get so busy, but you don't want the abridged version off of Audible. It's such a big book. Star by Star is such a big book. It is the biggest book in the EU collection ever. And it's by Troy Denning. And you know what's funny is we have these Denning haters. They say, oh, the Denning verse, kind of bullcrap. Yet Star by Star is one of the best books in the series. It's got some great gritty climatic events in there. How the Skywalker family handles everything that's going on in there. The loss of one really well written book by Denning, and yet they're like, F Denning, the Denning verse and stuff like that. He's contributed to one of the pivotal books that brings a great climactic scenes to the series. And the books that come after are pretty good too, but this is like, I would consider this is like one of the climactic where we see the fall of Coruscant and all of that books of the series. And yet people are like, oh, we hate Denning because he did this and that and whatever. They act like he written everything after New Jedi Order, which is not the fact. And yeah, so there's my little rant on that as well. Some of my favorite books are from Denning. One of my most favorite one is Inferno from the Legacy of the Force. So that's one of my absolute favorite books. And then I was thinking, like, Star by Star is my favorite book in New Jedi Order, next to Vector Prime, and then one of the books that I like of his is Tatooine Ghosts. So, what are your favorite books? It doesn't have to be from Denning. Let me know in the comments. Okay, let's see here. Disney will use EU original characters as member-berry bait. Oh yeah, we already seen that long since they got in Star Wars or Lucasfilm into their clutches, right? And then let's see here. We have, let me go back to this one. The first chapter already got me. Damn creepy Voxens. I know, right? Holy crap. Like, I'm not doing a book review, but we did talk about the Voxens when we first got into Star by Star timeline. And that's so fucking crazy. Alima Rar and her sister. Oh man, that is, and then how they attacked her sister. Holy shit, that's a lot. Like, when you read these books in New Jedi Order, like even the books that came before, you have like the first few pages, like one of them, I forget which one it is, but it's in the Agents of Chaos. And Leia basically is trying to help refugees escape, and just the horror in that, just the gritty, crazy horror in that of how the Yuuzhan Vong is attacking them and all this. I mean, well written, and they try to say, oh well, Disney's Andor is gritty and it's mature and all. No, they have not fucking read New Jedi Order, and I don't care if it's on screen or not. It's still the story. It's like Star Wars is a multimedia franchise. So whether if it makes it on screen or not really isn't the point here. It is about the writing and what's going on during the time frame, all of that. And so that's why I will compare the New Jedi Order to this Andor narrative bullshit that's being sent out here by these Andor shills, And we're going to get into today not only just the original topics and, cringe factor, but as soon as I say hello and quit yapping away with you guys, we're going to talk about the state of Star Wars and what some are thinking that, oh, there's going to be a change, in Star Wars again in Lucasfilm. So we're going to get a little bit of that talk because I think it's very important, because it seems like every single thing that comes out that people deem that is the best out of Disney Star Wars, when it comes to Disney Star Wars, they always go to this rhetoric. Oh, it's now saved, it's changed. So we're gonna get into that. And the backseater is here. What's up, Hail LOG? All right, this one doesn't start with crystal snakes, I hope. Are you talking about Star by Star or the second part of Young Jedi Knights? But there's but a crystal snake does kind of, I don't know, save the day, but I'm not going to say exactly how and why. So something to look forward to for you, Silver. And Mike Katias is here. Just watch Melvin's latest video. This explains cheering on the riots. You know what? I need to go watch it. I seen it was published this morning. I will go check it out. So you guys, when you guys have a chance after this, go check it out and support. Hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already. The button, the like is. Only Katarn we have left is a shill who gets catfished by other men. Right. And we have another channel member and also a mod, Elitist CAF Chats, Revan, Dark Talon, Cadus, and Jaina. Yes, become a channel member and you will be able to use these emojis. In fact, I think I got to go check, but I think I have enough to do another one. So I got to figure out what I want to do for that. I want to do something fun and creative, but I haven't thought of anything yet. So if there's an emoji that you want to see or have an idea that fits the channel, feel free to let me know. Get a hold of me, and let me know. I mean, I don't mind requests. Doesn't mean I'm going to do them. But it might spark a bigger idea, and I'll still give credit for that, So, you know me, I'm an artist, I'm a creative. So I like to see stuff and like to be inspired, right? And let's see here. Or they'll end up like Elon Thrawn without his pet Ahsoka. And Kristen Kennedy, hey, what's up? I'm just a Padawan, not even sure I spelled that correctly. Laugh out, hey girl, what's up? And what's up? How are you doing? One of my good friends here. And I got her into the Legacy comics, and in fact her husband bought her, I believe, the whole collection of the Cade Skywalker version, not the Anya Solo one, and then watching her get deeper into the expanded universe, George Lucas era. So welcome, Kristen. I am so happy you are here with us. And more like a Disney incontinence I can't even say that. Incontinence UT. Disney Incontinence. We'll just say that, right? Disney Incontinence. That's so funny. Star Wars Marvel purists, consider becoming a lead member. Join Alora. Oh, I love how you spell my name. And us on YJK Listen Parties, real Star Wars. Yes. Let's see here. And I'm going to go ahead and we might go over today. We've been doing that lately, but that's fine. I love chatting with you guys and then getting into the topics. So here we go. Disney's version of the EU characters feels like the parodies of everything. Robot Chicken have some serious competition with them. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll down. Let me see here. I'm still on Edge of Victory 2, switching gears and reading Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader. Yes, you're going to have a stream coming up with that on unadulterated Star Wars. You win. What is it? Raging Rhino, and who else is going to join you guys? You guys are going to talk about that, right? Just got done with the Mon Mothma Bail Organa on Coruscant conversation when Vader arrives. Andor can't hold, right? Oh my God, yes. That there when Vader arrives on Alderaan. And Bail almost freaks out. Like he keeps his composure, but he basically goes through his mental state of what would I do if this scenario happens, right? To protect Leia and who she is and stuff. That is some good stuff right there too. Highly recommend Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader. That just happens right after the events of Revenge of the Sith. My second favorite movie of the movies in Star Wars, George Lucas era. And highly recommend that. And the companion to that, I call it the companion, is the Kenobi novel. So both happen at the same time, but they are two different events going on at the same time in the universe with two, like the master and apprentice, I guess you can say. So great reads there. I highly recommend. A candle to George Lucas Star Wars. Lucas says, huge book in the 50 50 and plus chapter, or yeah, 50 and plus chapters and 600 plus pages. Damn, Troy Denning, boy, good job. Yes, I mean, seriously, that book, phenomenal. That, like, it's the best, I guess. Like I said, Vector Prime, amazing. It's right there. Like, I could say they probably even tied for first for me. It's like, it's hard because it always switches back and forth, but it's a small margin of my ratings between the two that they can go neck to neck. Very well written. Yeah, I know, the drunk wine mom. Yes. All right, Boxins are brutal. Holy crap! Like, I was comparing the Audible to the book, and you can't, like, the book is so big, the Audible cuts out a lot of significant scenes, like when Mara, Jade, and Jaina go and they go to they're on their mission, and basically they see the seizure of the ship, and where the Voxins are taken, and you have the Rar sisters leaving, are trying to escape in the escape pod and stuff like that. That in itself, like, their scenes with that is cut out in the Audible. There's a lot of major scenes, like even the Senate scenes with Nomenor, I believe, is cut out. I believe it is, and all of that. So, but I think the Senate scene with Nomenor going in and trying to basically manipulate the Senate to be against the Jedi and cause confusion and all of that, even though they still are turning against each other. That's the fall of Coruscant. So those who haven't read yet, no spoilers there, but I'm not going to talk about the events and how everything happened. It didn't happen the way Nomenor and Salvanah wanted it to happen. So because of Failure stunned everyone with what he spoke about and his Jedi sentiment. So there you go. There you go. All right. I wonder what Denning haters think about Star by Star. That's the thing. Me too. Like, I posted something on Twitter like a few days ago about that. And it's like, if they like Star by Star, they're hypocrites then, because trying to talk shit about Denning, right? And then he created one of the best books in the series. Kind of crazy, right? And you could see the callbacks to Star by Star in future in the future installments, like Legacy of the Force, and not necessarily Fate of the Jedi, but Legacy of the Force and stuff. And I think it's phenomenal. Really, I think it is. And I think one downfall that Lucino did for himself was thinking that he was ending the EU at the end of New Jedi Order. You know, if you go back to the interviews and where he talks about how he was basically thinking he was coming to a conclusion with the EU with that book, which isn't true. And I think that's where he got caught off guard, was that he was closing not only the series, but the EU. And he doesn't have that say. You know, really, he doesn't. Lucasfilm has that say, and they continued on in the storyline. And just imagine if we got Sword of the Jedi and stuff, you know, and all of this came from New Jedi Order. Why Twilight sisters feel bad for them. Oh my God, crazy, right? Leia helping real refugees. Yeah, real refugees. Yes, there you go. If Vong attacked during the height of the Empire, would have gotten beaten quicker. They talk about that in the series, and the conclusion is no, because the rebels were so well organized. Like, there's this back and forth within the series that talks about that. And I think Pelion was the one that said this little group, the Rebel Alliance, brilliantly defeated the Empire. The Empire couldn't even, defeat this little group. How could the Empire defeat the Vong? So there you go. But I mean, that will come up in future talk and debate. I can't wait to get to that point. We haven't gotten more into the Pelion arcs yet, but Pelion is brilliant in here too. I do have a short that that has them going head to head with what was his name again? He's a Vong. It starts with a V though, too. Vorex or something like that. Very brilliant, back and forth. Excuse me. Whose planets were wiped out? Let's see here. And Derek Lopez is here. All right, so we've been chatting here for a while here. Let's get into, I know you guys have a lot to say here, and of course, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna risk the copyright strike thing. I can go back and clip it out, but I want to play this now and then because I designed this for specifically for him, but also for our mods. But this one right here. Here we go.
This is going out to all the homies. Yeah.
This is for the raza. Yeah.
You trying to get crazy with this thing? Don't you know I'm loco?
All right. I love that clip, but because of the length and there's one part in the song where it goes longer in, I have to figure out how to go back and re-edit it. But I love how it's just edited. To me, it feels perfect the way it is. So I'm going to have to just go later on, cut it out for the copyright, for the little strike for it. Yeah. And let's go ahead and move into what I wanted to get into before we get into Lucas Facts and Book of the Week is, like I said earlier, when new Disney Star Wars content comes out, particularly the movies, or not the movies, but any type of film, shows, or whatever, if it's deemed good, then all of a sudden Star Wars is saved, or all of a sudden, you know, the tide is turning, or you know, whatever that narrative is. And this goes with people who we always have thought that were basically having the same stance as us, our siders, I guess you can say. And but in reality, when you go back and look at these people who, you know, are fence riders that jump back and forth between, oh, I hate Star Wars, oh, I like Star Wars, oh, I hate Star Wars, like this under Disney, there's no constant stance there. And we have some people making videos now and writing the grift of, you know, the tide is turned because all of a sudden, you know, the insiders turned on Filoni, you know, kind of deal. But what does that mean? Insiders turned on Filoni. Remember, it used to be Filoni against Favreau at one point, and then Favreau and Filoni against Kennedy. And then it was Favreau with Kennedy, or Favreau against Filoni and Kennedy, I guess you could say. Then it used to be like the DT with Kennedy was responsible for all of that, you know, so it was so bad. But whenever a show is done well, I guess you could say according to their standards or whatever, Kennedy is not given praise, right? And this time around, so look at this whole ebb and flow of this, really. It's like, I don't know, it's so exhausting in a sense, because it's the hope grifting, right? It's the hope grifting. I hope the next show is good, because then that means Disney Star Wars is changing their tune, I guess you could say, and honoring George Lucas's Star Wars. Well, that's long been past. They, like, the first time they dishonored the lore is when they decided not to honor, and they keep doing the same thing. They keep not honoring, they keep breaking continuity to the movies, they keep bringing in and bastardizing EU characters. But when you think something's good, everything is okay now. I mean, sure, like what you like, right? Like what you like, that's fine, it's good. But I'm talking about like continuity, structure, franchise wise. And then they forget all the BS rhetoric that Lucasfilm and their associates have said against fans from the beginning. Yeah, we're back at that fucking point again. we are back at that point again. It's like wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. And so, the next show that's going to come out, they're going to hate because there's this rhetoric against Filoni. And it's funny that these guys who loved Filoni from the beginning, even from Clone Wars when it was under George Lucas, now all of a sudden like Gilroy. And so this quote unquote civil war between Gilroy with Kennedy, because Kennedy's on his side, but people don't want to mention that, right? And then Filoni against Filoni. And all of a sudden they're all against Filoni now. All against him. But again, if Ahsoka ends up being good in their eyes, everything is good again. Filoni found his way. Watch. And myself and a few others like Tim, Star Wars Marvel Pierce, Ryan, Matt Wilkins, there's a greater handful of us that has spoken about Filoni from the start, even probably before we met each other, because our distaste for Filoni began under George Lucas's era when he was giving sole control of TCW, right? And how he's lied to George and how he's lied to audience and how he's now doing the same thing here. But all of a sudden, he's the bad guy to everyone now. Mind you, yeah, I'm like, hopefully they see the light now, but it's going to switch. Their opinion's going to switch per if they like the show. Not for what the person has done and treated the fans and has done to the lore. That all falls out the door or the or out the latch or whatever, get spaced, I guess you can say. Tim was here listening, and hopefully you're still listening in. Get spaced by them per if they like it or not. So there's no constant stance. And we're seeing that here today. And, I've been slowly keeping an eye on a few individuals here that have been making a reach, I guess you can say. And they are saying that the tide is turning, that everything's going to change. Star Wars is saved again. And then they're also talking about how they would correct Star Wars and using the world between worlds and the Calvin system, I guess you can say. But Star Wars in its birth through George and through those he brought in who had to adhere to his standards, his rules, what he wanted for the continuity and the canon, it's a multimedia franchise. Everything that is deemed canon matters to the greater story. The greater story, the foundation we always know is the movies. That's the foundation because that's what George created. He is basically the creator. If you're going to look at him as the god of Star Wars, I guess you could say in a sense, and I'm not saying I'm putting him on a pedestal to worship the man because I'm not. I just admire what he's done with this franchise and stuff. And yes, I see some of the ridiculous stuff that he's done. And, I noticed that he changes, like his thoughts are, he can contradict himself. He's contrarian, really, in some aspects. But when you see how he set up the company, when you see how he set up the continuity within the greater canon, even though he's mentioned parallel universe and stuff like that, his company under his guidance set everything up, unless it's like the movie play and stuff, or not the movie, sorry, the gameplay and stuff, to be all one continuity in the single canon. Companies can't do that if they don't have permission by the creator, right? So why would they continue to say under George that it was all canon, especially the authors too, because the authors go in and they write and they ask questions like, okay, so how does my story affect the greater lore? And they're told it's canon, right? It's canon. And that can't be possible if the creator, the owner, says it's not. Think about it. So that's how the company handled it, as one single continuity in the canon. And so when you get people who are like, oh, well, this is Disney Star Wars, mind you, I don't have high expectations for them and stuff like that. But what I'm pointing out is, and in fact, I don't have any expectations. This is fake Star Wars, right? You know, real Star Wars is made under the creator, right? I don't have any expectations, right? And but the thing is that they want saved Star Wars. They want Star Wars to be good again, but it's never going to be good again. It's never going to be the George Lucas era quality. So what are they fighting for? Are they just fighting for Disney's bastardization to continue? Yes, they are. You know, and sometimes you'll see them say, oh, I hope they bring this character in or that character in. So we're seeing that here today. We're seeing that narrative again today. And when we go live for Gatekeepers Alliance on next Friday, the 20th, I will be playing one of those people, those characters. I'm going to call them a character, right? Because to me, they don't have any hand in the game of avenging Star Wars, protecting its integrity, and George Lucas's integrity at all. So I'm going to be playing one of those characters. So I can't wait. So Gatekeepers Alliance, not this Friday, but the next coming up. And so be there with us. Go subscribe. We are finally partially monetized and making our way to be fully monetized. So your guys' support, if by any chance, sharing the link out, encouraging people who are disgusted with the state of Star Wars to come in, listen, subscribe, all of that. Share it out. Share it out here today. And I'm going to play this. I forget that I have clips that I can use, but I do have this. Let me go ahead and find it. Here we go.
Fuck the fandom menace.
Fuck the fandom menace.
All right. We are not the fandom menace. We don't strive to be. We strive to tell the truth and have integrity in our stance in avenging, protecting the integrity of Star Wars and George Lucas and even the EU characters. You know, I've been called EU elitist, and that's why I have it in my handle here. And you know what? I don't mind it. It's not an insult to me. So when people try to use this as an insult, I see it as an honor. I see it as a badge. However, I'm not just an EU elitist. I'm George Lucas era of Star Wars. Does that mean I put him on a pedestal? No. It means that I honor what the creator and the creators that he brought in to help him build his world, his franchise. I am here for that, to stand for that, to keep it in front of you, all of you, to enjoy. Because every time they come out with a new show, a new book, game, or whatever, they usurp classical names from George Lucas era, or characters that seem similar to other characters, or even the actual character themselves. So when you go to search classical George Lucas era of Star Wars, you're going to pull up Disney versions first. And so to me, it's very important to keep this in front of you guys so that when it's easy to search up characters that you love and know and not pull up the Disney Star Wars characters. Like when you get into New Jedi Order and you type it in, you're going to get a bunch of Rey stuff, right? And no one wants that. No one wants that. So there we go. So that's my rant. I just wanted to bring this up. I wanted to highlight this. Not that I don't like this fucking grift whatsoever. This copium kind of grift of every time a show comes out, oh, Star Wars is saved, and every time something that's not pleasing, oh, Star Wars is dead. I'm so fucking tired of that bullshit. I am. Yeah, sure, like what you like, but know that Star Wars is not Star Wars under Disney. Learn to learn to distinguish, compartmentalize, and know that they're not here for us fans. And in fact, there's like a whole group of these crazy green dot cultists that are huge fence riders that will talk crazy shit about the EU, but say they like the EU, right? But then also praise Disney and Star Wars. So we have this bullshit going on, and we're seeing all this evolve into something different. It evolves all the time. So I'm keeping an eye on that group too as well. There's a lot of things I'm keeping an eye on. So even if you don't see me a lot on Twitter, life gets busy. I'm keeping an eye on a lot of shit. I am. Sometimes I miss some things that the guys pull up and talk about, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't catch that. And so I go and do my research and stuff like that. So there we go. Gatekeepers Lines on the 20th Friday. I think it's the 20th, but on that Friday. And I want to see you guys there. I do. All right. So with that being said, let's get into our Lucas facts. Now, this is going to be a bigger, I'm not going to say bigger, but there's going to be a lot of detail in this one here in the Lucas facts. So let's go ahead and get into that. Where is my button? I have to scroll up because I was all the way down.
That's great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
All right. So we're like 45 minutes into the show, and it's like I'm not even at starting to talk with our lore talk here. But here is the Lucas fact. The Lucas fact is here. Director Irvin Kershner on directing Empire. There was really only one disagreement. It was the carbon-free scene when Princess Leia says, "I love you." And Han Solo's response in the script was, "I love you too." I shot the line, and it just didn't seem right for the character of Han Solo. So we worked on the scene on the set. We kept trying different. I love when I clip this and I get the first word and the rest of the word separate. I thought I corrected that. And couldn't get the right line. We were into the lunch, and I said to Harrison, "Try it again." And I just and just do whatever comes to mind. That is when Harrison said the line, "I know." After the take, I said to my assistant director, David Tomlin, "It's a wrap." David looked at me in disbelief and said something like, "Hold on. We just went to overtime. You're not happy with that, are you?" And I said, "Yes, it's the perfect Han Solo remark." And so we went to lunch. George saw the first cut and said, wait a minute. That's not the line in the script." I said, "I love you too." Oh, wow. People said that George didn't help write the script. But George is saying that he said he wrote "I love you too." What? Anyways, I'm just pointing out the obvious that George was involved in everything, that because it's his story, his production. He was very, I guess you could say, anal about that, because he wanted to tell his story. That's why he broke away from Hollywood. All right, so I'm straying from the topic. Was not Han Solo love you too was not Han Solo. Han Solo was a rebel. George felt that the audience would laugh. And I said, "That's wonderful. He is probably going to his death for all they know." We sat in the room and he thought about it. He then asked me, "Did you shoot the line in the script?" I said, "Yes." So we agreed that we would do 2 preview screenings. Once the film was cut and set to the music and the line in, and then with the line out. So basically with the line in and the line out of Harrison's new line that he came up with. At the first preview in San Francisco, the house broke up after Han Solo said, "I know." When the film was over, people came up and said, "This is the most wonderful time or line," and it worked. So basically, yes. So we want, this is about that. It was a change in the script. It was an ad lib. I know. And there's also scenes here that you can get with the making of, I believe, or whatever, that goes into this more in detail. And so the "I love you too," to what Harrison said, like getting into character of Han Solo on how he would say this. resulted in something that's so iconic. And I'm going to play this.
I love you.
I know.
So there you go. And if you get into the EU, or if you should know, if you're in the EU, maybe you haven't read some of those place spots yet within some of the books where they joke around. Like sometimes Han will say I love you and Leo will say I know. So it's like this nice little personal insider like love quote with each other that they keep. And I think it's wonderful. I love it. I think that, I don't think that I love you too would have been Han Solo-ish, I guess you can say. So that was a good call. And that was also a good call with George. Like George is like, I want to use my script, but then again, let's see how people would respond to this. And I think it turned out to be epic in its own. We have Ken Washoe here. Hey, what's up? The green dots are wild. Yes, they are. EU elitist spacers, CAF chatter, and lore keepers, all honorifics. Correct. There we go. The picture, I pictured as Harrison Ford being fed up with hearing the line again and again and was like, yeah, I know. Stop repeating it. Smash the like button. Let's see here. But hey, George was supposedly a yes man, right? That's why he ignored Harrison Ford's change and kept the original line. Oh, wait. Correct. I know. And it's funny how they said, oh, yeah, George is a yes man when it came to the PT, but not realizing that there's a lot of things that George did. He was involved in the OT. He's involved with everything. Even when he tried to step away because of health wise and all this other stuff, he was still highly involved. All right. Oh, my foot's falling asleep. Holy crap. I was sitting cross-legged and my right foot was underneath my left leg. Oh my God, my foot's falling asleep. The ad libs, yes. All right, let's see here. No. So now let's get into let's get into the book of the week. So what is that going to be? I try to do the novel. Well, I do the novels, but I consider, well, that's not the good word either. So novels, comics, source books, all of that are candidates for book of the week. It's not just necessarily staying to the novels. And last week was Twilight, the first appearance of Ayla Secura. So if you guys haven't seen that, you can find that on my Twitter. That was a comic that was book of the week last week. And we're going to get into this now. So let me find the clip here. And then we'll get into, oh, I hate when I do that. We will get into our lore chat. So if you have the new Jedi Order source book, feel free to grab it and I'll give you time to refresh your coffee and all of that, or your CAF, your Droid. So let's get into our book of the week. Let's see here, but where I have to scroll up. Here we go.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
All right. Book of the week. We are going with Outbound Flight by Timothy Zahn. So how many of you guys read this book here? The cover artist is Dave Seeley, and the publishing date for the hardcover is January 2006, and the paperback January 2007. And this falls into the timeline of 27 BBY. And continuity notes. This explores the mentioned Outbound Flight and Sabaoth's history. They were first introduced in the Thrawn trilogy. George Cardass introduced Inspector of the Prime. Spectre of the Past, not the Prime. Spectre of the Prime, what the fuck? Spectre of the Past gets more attention. So basically, if you read the duology, we have the introduction basically of George Cardath, which I think is a very interesting character in himself. And so he gets more attention here as well. And the fate of Outbound Flight and Jedi Lorna Ginsler is revealed in Survivor's Quest. So Laura Ginsler and the fate of the Outbound Flight, there's a part 2 to this, and this happens decades later, and it's called Survivor's Quest. And that's where that's where Mara Jade and Luke are freshly married, and they are sent off on they're contacted by the Chiss, and told that they found the wreckage of Outbound and that they're offering for them to come and investigate, take a look, and all this other stuff. So very interesting story here. Very fun to read. I wouldn't say it's my top book, but I still enjoyed the read. So there you go. Outbound Flight. If you haven't purchased this book, I would suggest to get it in your library, in your collection. And it's a fun read, especially if you're interested in the Outbound. Also, a little bit more of ambiguous Vong, I guess you could say, our Far Outsiders story, I guess you could say. So go ahead and add this to your story. There's a lot to pick up in there, especially like George Cardass. And you're interested in continuing or learning more about Sabaoth's story and who he is as well. So another great callback to that time era and what's going on. Not necessarily what's going on in the PT era, like, with the formation of the clones and all this other stuff. But you do have Darth Plagueis, who helped fund the Hidalgo Mosque, or whatever, however you pronounce his name, him sponsoring this Outbound Flight. So we have callbacks with that. Darth Plagueis basically had his hands in everything, and that's where Palpatine learned that from. He learned from his master on how to infiltrate, in through the major banking and politics and stuff like that. So we have that as well. So there you go. All right. So Outbound Flight, add it to your collection if you haven't already. Book of the week. And this has already been posted on Twitter, both that and Lucas Facts. And we'll see what next week comes to when it comes to the book of the week and Lucas Facts. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and play this. This is your chance to have your little tiny intermission break to fill up your drinks and what have you, and grab your source book. We're going to get into lore talk now. New Jedi Order. What's going on? Here we go. Let's play this first.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the Expanded Universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The Expanded Universe respects the reader. In the Expanded Universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy, just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi, or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the Expanded Universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the Expanded Universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series. making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story and continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
All right, so here we go. And I didn't even open up my book yet. I'm just like over here watching the videos that I'm playing for you guys and just chilling. So we are going on within the timeline of Star by Star. And what I love about this role-playing game book here, or the source book, is that it gives you breakdown of events and what's going on within the timeline. And I think it's amazing regarding that as well. So let's go ahead and get into this. So, all right. So we have, again, the slide here. Everything's staying consistent for the first one here. If you have the atlas, you can turn to those pages there where the Vong War is in the atlas and stuff. Great historical accounts there. Another great source to have with you, especially when you want to look at the mapping of events in different timeline eras of the Star Wars historical timeline. And it breaks things down, even movie-wise. It even tells you how long Han and Leia have been traveling in sub-hyperspace speed, going to Cloud City during Empire Strikes Back. It has all those major little details that people wonder and ponder about, like how long were they traveling? How long was Luke on Dagobah with Yoda? All of that. So another great source book to have. I already had that book, the Atlas, as a book of the week, but I still highly recommend it, as well as any type of source book that you can get your hands on regarding Star Wars, like George Lucas era. And so there we go. And yeah, they don't use Disney Fast Passes for traveling, correct? And we even get that here. Like here in the New Jedi Order series, they tell you, they're specific on how long it takes to travel and how these hyperspace lanes work and how they can get blocked, and they can also, pull you out of hyperspace and stuff like that. Yeah, so there's a lot of details when it comes into hyperspace travel, and very consistent. Very consistent. And again, this stays consistent here. We're still in the Star by Star era. I'm going to be sad once we move away from the source book and kind of wing it a little bit on my part. Not wing it. I will put things together according to events and stuff. But this right here, this map here, like I said, I juxtaposed the Vector Prime to the rest of the map that's in the Atlas to show all the planets that are taken by the Vong together. And there's no complete map, so I made a map here. And so I think it's very, very interesting here to see this map, the Vector Prime. I don't know if you see my mouse like scrolling over the image or not, but you have the campaign, then you have the Star by Star one where it's like the little black planets with the yellow outline of the planets that were taken by and destroyed by, or what have you, by the Vong. It gives you a greater idea. They're moving towards Coruscant. At this time, I didn't grab the version of the map that has the Yuuzhan Vong hand reaching for Coruscant. I think that's amazing. Next week, we'll have that. So we're going to get into the Yuuzhan Vong Hunter War Droids, Jedi Radicals, the XJ3 X-Wings, the newer versions of the X-Wings, and new Starship Tactics. So amazing stuff here. These war droids against the Vong are fucking amazing. And again, thank you, Lando Calrissian. There's many times that Lando has stepped up and made, droids and ships and stuff to help the Jedi. And that's a bit of his history. And it's so amazing how useful and innovative Lando Calrissian is compared to the Disney version, where he just likes to fuck droids and he don't care about anything but himself, what have you. Yeah, we get the first impression, like from Empire Strikes Back, that he thought that it seemed like he only cared about himself, but really he was plotting and scheming still with what he had to prepare with Vader's invasion of Cloud City. And so there's that whole story arc there of him looking like he betrayed his friends when we're in reality he was conspiring to help them out the best way he could with what he had. And here we have this, I wouldn't say it's a redemption arc, basically, because he was still, his friends were still in favor of his assistance, I guess you could say. And we get this here today with him siding with the Jedi, helping them out. We have instances like in Darkness Trilogy where he has the droids against the Killiks, so he provides droids for them as well to help with them, and so on and so forth. Even Fate of the Jedi, he has one of his mining ships that they use too. I believe it's in that series that they use to help combat too as well. So a lot of great callbacks and how Lando was very inventive, and he actually a very fucking smart man. He is very smart man. All right, so I'm done with that, but let's go ahead and play this for Lando. Here we go, because he is a smooth, smart character. There you go, Lando. I will be back. Okay, so let's get into the Jedi Radicals. We're going to lead up to the droids, the war droids, all right? So Master Luke Skywalker's tenacious grip on the desperate elements of the Jedi grow weaker and weaker as more Jedi Knights die under the claws of the Peace Brigade's Voxen. Now, we know that the Yuuzhan Vong basically shaped or cloned the Voxen from the Vornskers, and we will learn more about where this facility is at when we get closer to it, and exactly how they did this. We'll get more into that pretty soon, probably within the next couple of weeks. Let me take a drink. I really need to have a hot tea, honey tea, because my voice seems to get a little tired after talking for a while with you guys, which I don't mind, but I just don't want to sound like a certain person that's been deemed to be smoking a lot of cigarettes and stuff. I don't want that. By waiting until the occupation of Yavin 4 and subsequent destruction of the Jedi Academy, Luke might have let too many worlds fall and too many Jedi die to now salvage the situation. Most of Kip Duran's faction has more or less ceased to listen to Skywalker, preferring Kip's guidance. So I remember on Star Wars Marvel Pierce channel with him and Matt and Tim and John, how they were talking about how they made Kip Duran look like the bad guy within the order, like, you know, and like there was this like basically division in the order and stuff like that. But in the end, towards the middle end of the series, you will find out how Luke was like, yeah, you're right. You know, so but he was right. He was like, we need to take action. We just can't be passive aggressive here. We need to take action. And you're right. Kip was right. Kip was right. All right. The very fact that there are factions means that the Jedi need decisive actions as soon as Jedi need decisive action as soon as possible. Let me go ahead and rearrange myself here. I feel like I feel cluttered here. To repair the split within the ranks of the Jedi, Skywalker offers to meet with Duran. The two discuss how the new Republic's truce with the Yuuzhan Vong would impact the Jedi's activities. For as long as anyone can remember, the Jedi mandate has been to protect peace and justice. However, Numenor's threat to destroy the Talfagio refugee convoy clearly puts the Jedi in a difficult situation. If they attack the Yuuzhan Vong ships poised to attack the convoy, the refugees would suffer unacceptably high consequences in the crossfire. Surrendering to the Yuuzhan Vong is obviously out of the question. The enemy has made it abundantly clear that they're unlikely to honor any truce, since once the Jedi are no longer around to slow them down. Though nowhere near ready to accept defeat, Master Skywalker admits that if no other solution can be found, it could be very well come to that. So we have this. So Luke, caught up in his mind from the beginning on the approach of handling the Yuuzhan Vong and how the New Republic is turning against the Jedi because they're being manipulated by the Vong and stuff like that, to now coming to realization that, yeah, he was wrong. Now, don't you remember or recall, damn, I'm like falling apart here, how Disney Star Wars apologist, the shills, would say that Luke Skywalker was OP or overpowered in the EU, that he can move black holes, that he can move starships, all of this stuff, that they are glad that they made him more relatable into this whiny character that runs and hides from the galaxy, his friends and family, because of his allowance and his, basically it was his fault for his nephew turning, right? That what does he call it? Kylo Ren or whatever, Ben Solo. But yeah, here we have Luke. His decisions, not the best. His approach, not the best. Having to then look at the bigger situation and basically come to the conclusion that Kip was right? And that they need to be more aggressive in a sense against what's going on. So I wouldn't say that that's OP, because an OP Mary Sue kind of character, Gary Sue kind of character is always right, is always liked. They really don't make mistakes. They really don't see a defeat. None of that. But here we are. Here we are. So I'm pointing that out here. All right. So let's move on. Kip was right. Matt Wilkins, your favorite character. And if you haven't seen my interview with Matt Wilkins on Talking EU, feel free to check that out when you have the chance. It's still up. I like to keep those up. In fact, I need to bring the series back. It's never really gone away. I just haven't really talked to anybody to have people in mind. I just haven't reached out and got them in for a Talking EU. So stay tuned for that in the future. Yeah, so if you want to check that out, Matt Wilkins, that's his favorite character, and that's what his icon for his Talking EU, Kip Duran. All right, Kip Duran, of course, disagrees. The two Jedi, let me see where did I found. Oh, wait, let me see here. Where was I at? Shh. All right, okay, yeah. Kip Duran, of course, disagrees. The two Jedi Masters and their supporters might have argued the point for hours, but for the sudden sensation through the Force, another Jedi has died. Yep, that's Alima's sister. As for Kip Duran and his followers are concerned, the time for making plans has long since passed. They need action. Now let's see here. All right, it has long since passed. So we have this here. Luke's finally coming to a conclusion. Hasn't fully made it yet, but he's coming to conclusion of how, what to do, what their approach should be. Their Jedi are dying, as well as many many refugees, people fleeing from the Yuuzhan Vong. The Senate basically is not coming to a common solution on how they should approach the Yuuzhan Vong. There's a huge split. There's so much chaos going on, even for the Jedi. And the Vong are seeming to be taking advantage of this, right? But they know that the Jedi are a greater threat. That's why they made the Voxen, because they need to find a way to get the Jedi out of the picture. And so these Voxens were created. So Pyrrha says, it's kind of like Matt was explaining to me that Dark Empire causes Luke to become passive. Correct. Second guess things and always worry about himself and others in the order going to the dark side. Yes. And I think you kind of see that, like you see that a little bit in, even though there was no conversation between Tom and Timothy Zahn, Dark Empire creator versus the heir to the Empire, or Thrawn trilogy, they both came to the same conclusion in a sense that Luke, is afraid of, his students, him not being a good enough teacher, so his students fall to the dark side. Well, the great influence of him thinking, I could infiltrate this clone of Palpatine and learn a little bit more about the dark side so I can understand how to defeat it, kind of backfired on him a little bit in a sense, and also implanted more worry, doubt, fears, I guess you can say, because he doesn't want to create the next Darth Vader, right? But so we see those doubt, fears, and we also see it like towards like even in the Legacy era. He still has a little bit of the doubts and a little bit, especially for himself, where he steps away from being the one that pursues Darth Caedus, right? Because he knows if he does, he'll turn dark. So that fear, doubt, all of that was created from the time frame of Dark Empire now turned into wisdom. But it took a long time to do that. He had to come through and he had to live an experience, even through the Yuuzhan Vong war, what it is for himself and the dark side for himself versus his pupils, his students, his Jedi, and how he can help them not go dark, or if they have an inkling of turning dark, how they can help them with that. I mean, it's all fascinating to get into. It's all fascinating to get into. Let's see here. The Vong are doing what the Sith Empire did during the Great Galactic War. Same things happened to. There you go. There's a little callback, but this time it's not the Sith, it's the Vong. And so I'm glad that you're seeing like these little callbacks on like both are influenced by the dark side. Doesn't matter who you are, if you're a Sith or not, the justifications are the same or could be similar. How they go about it could be similar, even though that they're different entities, right? Lucas Gerson says, Luke, you know what? Kip Duran was right. Kip, wait, what? I am? I mean, yeah, I am. Right? Let's see here. Wisdom is costly if you ain't paying attention. Very good. And let's go here with Soul Assassin. Luke was no quitter like Disney Luke. Correct. So let's get into here. So Saba 17, I just wanted to get into this new character, even though she's not on the little like list of what we're going to discuss. She is one of Denning's creations, I guess you can say, in a sense. Her first appearance is in this book here, Saba 17. She's such a fascinating character. I just adore her. Okay, so let's get into her. So she's a Barabal. So she's that species, and her world gets decimated in the series as well. We haven't got there yet, but it's so heartbreaking for her. So heartbreaking because she witnesses it. I'm not going to get into full details here, but that's just a glimpse into what's coming in the future. What's coming in the future? The first Barabal Jedi since, well, before the rise of the Empire. Saba 17 is a hard-bitten, tough-minded freedom fighter dedicated to eradicating the stain of the Yuuzhan Vong from the galaxy. Her resolve grows even stronger with Elysia, when Elysia, one of Luke Skywalker's earliest students, and the woman who had detected Saba's force potential and trained her, falls prey to the Voxen while scouting on Corellia. Yeah, Corellia is not safe either, right? Saba escaped her homeworld of Barab 1, now overrun by the Yuuzhan Vong, along with the squadron of equally tough fighter pilots, the Wild Knights. Their ships are all ragtag collection of battered Y-wings, Hell Runners, and Headhunters. Saba 17 coordinates their activities from a plasma-scarred skip ray blast boat. And like Kip Duran's better-equipped Kip's dozen, Saba's Wild Knights are all Jedi. So the Wild Knights, I haven't gotten to that yet. We will get into what the Wild Knights are. Very interesting bunch there. So I can't wait till we talk about that. Star Wars Scram, what's up? How are you doing? Let's see here. OG, did you know that Darth Maul fought a Vong in Maul lockdown? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, she is awesome. And hi, everybody. Did anyone else see the Star Wars Explained put up there? So, yeah. Yeah, we're not going to fully talk about it here. However, Darth Malvin made a video. I highly recommend to go see it after we're done here. All right, let's see here. The dark side of the Force has zero qualms about dragging a species from an entirely different galaxy to do its bidding. The dark side will use lightsabers or tech haters. Laugh out loud. There you go. Great perspective there. Okay, let's see here. Sith, buddy, you don't use the Force. You're just a knockoff of cheap coffee. Yuuzhan Vong. Oh, no. I'm the upgrade. That's amazing. Oh, that's amazing. All right. I stay off X mostly too many NPCs. Yeah, you can. I mean, it's you got to have thicker skin to stay on Twitter nowadays. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. Let me see. I'm trying to click on this one. Yuuzhan Vong versus New Republic. There we go. Yeah, so when you have a chance. All right, so let's get into the X-Wings here, the newer form, and then we'll get into the droids. All right, and then we'll get into our cringe factor. So the XJ3 X-Wings. With the Yuuzhan Vong invasion dragging on and on, the New Republic starship design experts have pulled out all the stops and created the most lethal vessels they can craft. The latest model of X-Wing fighter, the Incom RT-65XJ3, represents the pinnacle of the starfighter engineering. Slightly longer than its predecessor, the XJ X-Wing, but built on the same lines. The XJ3 sports the same 3 torpedo launchers and also stocks heavy proton torpedoes for more punch against the Yuuzhan Vong targets. It is equipped with the backup shield generators that have proven useful against the shield grab attacks employed by the Yuuzhan Vong. Incom starfighter factories have retooled their lines completely to crack out those new starfighters, enforcing the depleted starfighter ranks in the New Republic's defense forces. Not surprisingly, though, more than 50 of those new ships have somehow found their way in the hands of the Jedi Knights, of course, and who have put them to good use. XJ3 X-Wings used by Jedi take advantage of the shadow bomb tactics, feeling one torpedo launch rack with missiles that have no propellant. The space normally occupied by the propellant is instead packed with more explosives, meaning that the torpedoes deal considerably more damage. There you go. So we have a new X-Wing, in the timeline here to help better combat the Yuuzhan Vong. Do I have my notes ready for Hero's Trial? Not yet, but I can go back and take care of that. No problem. I do have some notes, but probably not as efficient as I want to be with it. If you're talking to me, if not, Star Wars Scran can answer that too. Howdy, Purist. Hey, I'm glad you're here with us. It's good to have you in chat. All right. Now let's get into the tactics and then we'll get into the droids here. New starship tactics. With the Force on their side, the Jedi develop new starfighter tactics that are otherwise unavailable to conventional pilots because they have the Force. Both of you are slackers. What? I know how you are. I've seen what you do too. You do notes, and then towards the end, your notes are not as effective. All right, let's see here. Realizing the Yuuzhan Vong pilots. So this is the shadow bomb. Realizing the Yuuzhan Vong pilots can detect and avoid standard torpedoes by their bright propellant trails. Kipterons develops a new way of delivering missiles to their targets, the Force. The torpedo released in space and then pushed using moving objects without a constant gravity field to slow its progress can travel indefinitely on the straight line at the same speed it was pushed. Though its progress is considerably slower than that of the ordinary torpedo, one range category every other round, it cannot be detected unless one knows exactly what to look for. Striking the targets requires successful move object check. Using attackers dexterity modifier as well as his intelligence modifier. Oh, this is, I don't know why I read that. This is the gameplay here. I don't know why I read that. I usually don't read the comma part. Against the target's defense. Use the rules for engaging missiles. The torpedo successfully attacks or strikes a Yuuzhan Vong ship. The target ship cannot use its Dovin basal shields to reduce the damage. If the move objects check files, the range is too great, the attack fails, and the torpedoes deal no damage. So basically, we have them, the Jedi using the Force to help. I know you're joking. You don't have notes either. I know you're joking. That's why I had, you know me, I had to push back. You know me. You guys know me. So there you go. So we have, Kipteron, who is using the Force, and as Simpson has told the Jedi, all other Jedi, how to use this shadow bomb to attack the Vong, since they have smartened up against the tactics too that the Jedi use. So, they're always, like, throughout the series, they're reinventing the way they can attack each other. And it's very interesting how that goes. Let's see here. So let's get into the droids now, and then we'll get into our cringe factor. So let's go. Yuuzhan Vong Hunter War Droids. All right, let me take a sip here. Robot Chicken created the Q-Wing. Since the loss of Debrillion, Lando Calrissian has been at loose ends, looking for some way to pitch in against the Yuuzhan Vong. Again, Lando is fucking brilliant. With typical entrepreneurship spirit, Lando has now turned the loss of his Lando's Folly facility into a stab at profit. The fact that Yuuzhan Vong despise droids and destroy them whenever they're found leaves the droid market understandably weak. Several droid factories on the half-dozen worlds, some of which are all too close to Yuuzhan Vong occupied territories, sit idle. Frame workers slowly falling into poverty with nothing to support the industry. Lando sees this opportunity. He seizes it, basically. He purchases droid factories for extremely reasonable prices and puts the workers back on the job, designing and building a new model war droid, the UVH series, Yuuzhan Vong Hunter. The UVH is designed to be the Vong's ultimate nightmare, a lifeless abomination with more than a passing resemblance of Yuuzhan Vong psychology or physiology. The droid developers program it to detect various chemical and pheromonal indicators, allowing the YVH to identify blah 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 Yuuzhan Vong who are using Uglith maskers in human populations in a demonstration of its capabilities of Chief of State Borsfelia. The prototype VH1-1A does exactly that. So imagine that. They find these little pheromones and stuff that are distinctly, the Uglith maskers, and even the Vongs, and installs that indicator in the droids to help unmask these cloaked Vong that have infiltrated. Let's see, that's illustrated. It's bad though. I don't know what you're talking about. Or probably the Q-wing. Did you know the X-wing was formerly called the Twitter wing before Elon brought the rights? Oh, that's funny. All right, so just imagine that. So again, Lando, fucking brilliant, right? Brilliant guy. All of that. The YVH-1A, a qualified success. Senator Vicky Shesh. Oh, I can't stand her. Oh my God, you guys already know how I feel about her. Yeah, they're cyber bongs. They are cyber bongs. Collaborating with the Yuuzhan Vong has told them that Felia's decision to support the Jedi stands a good chance of uniting the New Republic. This unity would strengthen the resolve to oust the invaders. She suggests to her superiors that Felia needs to die. A turn of events that would let me take a drink. So this would put Vicky Shesh in control of the Republic's ruling council. The Yuuzhan Vong agree, sending a squad of disguised assassins armed with amphistaffs, thud bugs, razor bugs, and plasma eels to infiltrate the droid testing grounds and dispatch the chief of state. The redoubtable UVH-11A detects the assassins and promptly does its level best to destroy them. However, the prototype war droid has power governors on its weapons. Decades of old laws prevent armed droids on Coruscant. Oh my God. Yeah, that's right. I forgot all about that too. And Lando had not anticipated that the droids would need its weapons during the sales pitch. That's crazy, right? The UVH-11's first engagement with the Yuuzhan Vong goes from an encouraging success to a spectacular failure. Fortunately, Han, Leia, and Lando are able to overcome the Yuuzhan Vong killers, and the UVH-11A is still able to assist, albeit only with its pure burgeoning strength. Borsfelia is less than impressed with the war droid and needs the help of the people it's protecting. So there you go. So yes, because of the Coruscant laws, they weren't able, and then he didn't really have his droids fully armed and occupational or whatever that saying is. But so that was a failure to introduce to the New Republic. However, this is now a new weapon against the Vong that the Jedi take advantage of. And Coruscant, another reason why it falls, right? Because it has these laws stating what type of weapons can and cannot be used. And now the Vong has infiltrated Coruscant and has made it look like these droids are useless against them. So kind of like shot yourself in the foot a little bit, Coruscant, right? And all of that, not Lando's fault really, but Coruscant's. And we start seeing the fall of Coruscant happen in this book. So can't wait to get more into the details of the fall of Coruscant and all of that. All right, so we are going to come to a conclusion and pause here. Next week we will continue on with this timeline of star by star. Let's see here. See, even in Star Wars, gun control is a negative. There you go. And if Disney used the Vong, they would turn them into space Trump supporters. All right, let's see here. Let's go on with this. All right. So let's get into our cringe factor. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I took myself out. I took myself off stage. I love it when I do that. All right, let's get into this here. What do I want to play as we segue into our cringe factor? Let's get into George and the EU.
Jedi is something that came a little later. When we started building Jedis, we had a lot of Jedis, and we needed more and more Jedis. As we were doing them toward the end, we ended up with a lot of Jedis that looked like people that worked at ILM, with these short little haircuts and looked like they stepped out from behind a computer. And so I was saying we have to get more exotic Jedis. And so we only have so much resources to do these things with. But I do have Twi'leks because we use them quite a bit in other areas in the Senate and as background action. So I have a sort of a wardrobe and a setup of certain kinds of characters. So it was a way of reinventing some of those characters. And I had realized that we had a comic book that has a Twi'lek in it that is a Jedi. There's a whole series actually of her. And I said, well, why don't we put her in this? I mean, she's a comic character, but we'll just fit her in and have her be a background character because that's exotic. That's how the Twi'lek Jedi ended up in the backgrounds of these shots, was to try to use some of the work and effort that the guys in the comic book world had put into things and characters they had created.
Oh my God, I froze up. Like, man, that like everything just like went to hell. I froze up. And that's when I was pushing to share screen, the Screen Rant article. They really don't want me to share their article, but let's move on. Let's get this shit going. Let's go ahead and start our cringe factor.
So uncivilized.
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the ready room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
Okay, let's go ahead and kick you out. But here we are. I am back. Never a dull moment here. Oh, look at this. I don't know. Look at there we go. Never a dull moment here on Cat Chat when it comes to me and the shenanigans, when it comes to cringe factor. In fact, I think I'm freezing up again. What the heck? There we go. Maybe, maybe not. Can you hear me? I think I froze up. Maybe, maybe not. What the heck? Screen Rat does not want me to do shit. Screen Rant does not want me to do crap. Let's see. Use the force, smash the like button. I think you can hear me now, maybe. Can you? Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Testing. I can't even type right now. Testing. I forgot my N. All right, you can hear me now. All right, so here we go. Screen Rants delivering and also delivering the chaos in the stream. Get me pros. All right. Then who? The Solo family? Yes, we're going to get into that right now. I'm going to try to get this done before 11. We might go over a little bit. 11 my time, basically, at the top of the hour. This one Star Wars family completely changed the galaxy's history. And no, it's not the Skywalker family. So we could probably say the Solo family is part of the Skywalker family, I guess you could say. But, and again, they're their own entity as well. This is by Molly Brizzle. And I think we have been graced by her articles before. So let's see what she has to come. This conclusion that she has to come to with. Families have long since been the key part of Star Wars franchise. Well, basically the Skywalker. But there's one in particular that has truly changed the galaxy, and it's not the Skywalkers. Well, the entire Star Wars saga, as we know, is established around the Skywalker family. Well, fucking yeah, that's the intention of George Lucas. It's about basically the space opera, or the opera in space, basically. From the childhood of Anakin Skywalker, Rey is not she's a Palpatine. There are plenty. So she's talking about Disney Star Wars in general, but we know true Star Wars. This Rey does not exist. We have Jaina, Jason, Anakin, Ben. We have them. There are plenty of other families in the Star Wars who have also influenced the galaxy in the significant ways. And you know what? Going to the EU, yes, there's other families that have influenced in their own significant ways. Not saying like no other faction or no other parts of the galaxy, the beings and species and all of that has not influenced Star Wars in general. But when it comes to the greater story, in a sense, it's about the Skywalker family. With how much they influenced the galaxy. And you can go into the Solo family as well, but the Solo family they have their own significance when it comes to the Corellian sector, right? And going into Thrak and Sal Solo, and then and Han Solo and their history, ruling families of Corellian system, the Corellian planets, system planets and stuff like that, going back in that history. So there's that significance there, right? And then you have the Fets that goes all the way back to the ancient times, old Republic era, and their influence when it comes to the Mandalorian culture and lore and all this, leading up to the Clone Wars, and maybe a little bit beyond, right? Because we have Mir to Give, all of them. Both of these themes, families and choices, is shown in the animated series Star Wars: The Bad Batch. So the clones, the family, that's what they're saying is a family. I would hardly say that the clones, in a sense, are family. Like if you're talking about Disney Star Wars, if you're talking about the real lore, when you have like the Null arcs, all of them, and how the Nulls and the arcs are basically, they're not as manipulated, genetically manipulated to obey and be, obey, be obedient, all of that. They were helped and to find a new life after the war, right? And so you could say that they were adopted into a Mandalorian clan family, I guess you can say. And that's where I would say that would apply. But with Disney's clones, I don't see them in that line of like family structure, clan. They're just another knockoff of Jango. They're just that. And even Boba Fett would say that they're, would even deny them as being his brothers, all of that. We know, if you've read the lore, we know how he feels about the clones. A beloved tight-knit group of defective clones with genetic, and they're trying to, like, again, these clones here, they're trying to make it sound like they're the Knolls, that was established by Karen Travis and stuff, what have you. With genetic mutations desirable in soldiers becoming family with the young, unaltered female clone Omega. So there we go. I want to see what you guys are saying. I'm not looking at the screen right now as you guys are talking. Let's see what you guys are saying about this. Was Han born with the Solo surname? It's made up by some officer. He was named, that was his surname from the start. It was not granted to him or given to him as an official. And I'm wrapping up here. And so on. So clones are not family. No, they're not. Bad Batch are just knockoff of the Knoll clone plane space babysitters. And let's see here. If that's fair to call the PT Mr. Smith, our Sith goes to Coruscant. I don't know. I'm reading from the bottom up. So I'm reading from the most current chat to the least. Let's see here. Let's see here. Disney supplanted the Palpatine family to replace the Skywalker and our Solo family. Well, that's not even this. She's talking about the clones here. Again, you can apply that to pre-Disney, but here, not really. In fact, this Omega, she's not an exact copy of Jango. Being an exact copy would mean she's male. So here we go. The galaxy would have been so different if the Bad Batch's inhibitor chip activated. And that's where, you guys, I'm not going to read anymore because we already know what we're getting here. They're trying to say, oh, well, they influenced because their inhibitor chip never activated and they were against the forming empire. And, and so everything that happened to them, it influenced the galaxy in a major way. So that's what she's coming to with you, this like the straw manning to find another reason to say that like Luke and Anakin and Leia and Han and their family is not as significant as this so-called clone family. And they're trying to, like, in a way, they're trying to make them more humanized, I guess you can say. And with that, it goes against the lore of the chip that Filoni inserted into the story. And I still believe that it was not George's intention. And there's been evidence, and I still got to find the article that I found like 7 years ago or so, George saying there's no chip, but there's evidence too that it wasn't a plan. The plan was always been that the Kamonians basically altered them through cloning their biology to, be, war eccentric, I guess you could say, take commands or without question and all of that. Let me see what you guys have to say. Why was Boba called the Alpha in Bad Batch? I don't know. Space clones, Bad Batch, and all. And EU clones equals Palpatine weapons to kill his rival. Mandalorians are like foster adopted families. Let's see here. Yeah, clones are not family, but when you get into the real lore, they established family. Yeah, they seen each other as family in a sense because they are all from the same person and have you. They have that brotherhood and stuff, and you do see that in both lores. However, they're not family in the sense like comparing it to like a family structure like the Skywalker. That's completely different. Bad Batch are just knockoff of the Null clones playing space babysitters, correct? All right, let's see here. And it is fair to call the PT. Oh, I already read that. All right. So that's right here. This is cringe factor here, just in short and sweet. You know, they go into more of the story of like Caleb, one of them, getting into Kanan and how he wouldn't be here because of Caleb and what happened and what have you. Like, she goes into more details and stuff of this, but basically, I wouldn't say that these guys were as significant or impacted the galaxy as the clone. Yes, there are influencing families, like I stated in the beginning. This is not one of them. Ezra, Aladdin plus Luke. And let's see here. Filoni's clones, brothers that are that the audience want to be emotionally attached. Clone found family, transhumanist NPC propaganda. That's a mouthful right there. Disney really loves to milk the clone lore. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to leave it as here. If you want to get more into the real official Clone Wars story, you know, you can visit the novels, the Republic novels and stuff, and some of the comics. There's plenty of that out there. You can also get into Legacy of the Force, where it gets more into what Boba feels about it and how he's dying and how he has to reach out to one of the clone quote unquote brothers and stuff like that. And more comics like Blood Ties is one where, you know, we get more into what Boba feels about and thinks about the clones, and a clone's son goes into that as well. And in reality, these clones, these null arcs and these clones that have ended up defecting and stuff like that and coming to their own person and creating their own families after the war and what have you, if they haven't stayed with the Empire. They form families and stuff like that, but they just want to be left alone. In reality, they just wanted to be left alone. And that's where Cal Scarata helped a lot of the Null Arcs do, is he adopted them in, he helped them acclimate back into civilian life and all of that. They just wanted to be left alone. And so we'll leave it at that. All right, so tonight is Raging Rhino. He's got his casual rage, so go ahead and go to his channel and hit the reminder so that you can get an alert when he goes live and see you in the chat as well. I don't know his topic. I just know he's going live, so check that out. And what else? And I think there might be the spacing tomorrow, maybe not. I don't think so. But if there is, you'll see me advertise it and stuff on Twitter, and so stay tuned for that as well. And CAF chat next week. I still have a couple of videos that I've been promising that are in the edit. I just been busy preparing for graduation and stuff for my baby girl. So those would have been just put in on the back burner. So stay tuned for some coming videos here pretty soon. And CAF chat again. And then our Gatekeepers Alliance Friday night on the 20th. So see you guys then. Let me go ahead and remove this from the screen. I removed myself. Damn it, Laura, why am I not? There we go. And let's see here. It's weird. I suddenly had a nostalgic moment back to when I would get ready for school and MTV played music and my phone going off from the girlfriend and homies calling me to wake up. Weird. Oh, okay. I'm trying to have my BF 05 versus Disney. Okay, Battlefront 05 versus Disney's Battlefront 2 video out by tomorrow. Awesome. Stay tuned for that as well. And Raging Rhino, Casual Rage right here. So go ahead and set the reminders for that and be there. Be there. And I'm going to go ahead and part with you. I have to get ready for my trip. I got to pack. I got to eat. I'm hungry. And yes, so always great hanging out with you guys. I'm always going to get into Star Wars news and the state of Star Wars, what's going on, sharing the lore, Lucas facts, book of the week, all of that. So glad to be here with you every Thursday morning, my time, for CAF Chat. And you guys are friggin' amazing. Let me find a video to play as we exit. So let's get to, since we're talking about the FETs, let's get into this.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave One, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
I love you.
I know.
All right, you guys. Thank you again. If you're catching the replay, let me know you're here and you made it this far, and let me know anything that you want to comment on so that we can have a conversation as well. And again, talk to you guys later. May the force be with you. Oh, and remember, become a channel member this Sunday, 6 p.m. Part 2 of Book 1 of Young Jedi Knights, Heirs of the Force. So see you then.
Another happy landing.